Where is your kidney, actually?
My kidney?
Or kidneys?
Well, one of my kidneys is in North Carolina right now. Another one is down here. So when I donated the kidney, they used a laparoscopic surgery, which means that they needed to make only a tiny incision, and then they were able to just pop the kidney right out of that tiny incision. And you can see the incision right here. It was this kidney, my left kidney. The scar is just an inch. And I don't think that's such a big deal when the reward is you save somebody's life. A few years ago, I decided I wanted to donate a kidney. I had been reading about it for a long time, and among other things, I read that it's really not such a big deal, that the surgery is very, very safe. In fact, it's safer than an appendectomy. And in exchange for what I considered some inconvenience, I could save somebody's life. And so eventually, I think I just hit a kind of tipping point where I decided, yes, I'm going to do this.
What's their medical function?
They filter, toxins and impurities and waste out of the blood and produce urine. And when you do a kidney donation, it basically starts working instantly once it's in place with the recipient.
And if we're born with two, you wouldn't think that we need two, or that there's a need for two?
You don't need two. I guess the second one is a redundancy. I don't know. But people, that's another important statistic, is people who donate kidneys, live just as long as everybody else. Partly it's because they're very, very well, selected. No doctor wants to, have a donor come to harm.
Right.
So, they're very careful about who they select and don't select to donate. But then also it's because, the kidney itself is pretty, redundant. And so you really can live quite a happy life with just one.
And your donor, you know about your donor?
Yes. So I went on a site called matchingdonors.com, which it looks a lot like a dating site, but it's actually the ads are from people who are begging you really to give them your kidney, and it's actually quite heartbreaking because it's filled with ads that say things like, I just want to live to watch my children grow up, or I'm 26 and I've been in dialysis for several years, or please, I just want a chance to attend my daughter's wedding. There's like every ad has something heartbreaking about it. But I found an ad that was from a man who had founded a no-kill animal shelter, and I remember exactly what his ad said. His ad said that I've spent the last 20 years giving animals a second chance at life. Why won't you consider giving me a second chance? And I'm a big animal lover myself, so the answer was immediately yes, and I knew that he was the one.
Well, how long ago was this?
This was about 4 years ago.
Are you in touch with him at all?
Yeah, we were in a lot of touch for the first year or two. Now we're sort of in holiday touch. He's doing great. And what his wife told me is that when you donate a kidney, you're really saving the whole family. Because if somebody's in dialysis 3 or 4 days a week, which is what happens when your kidney is failing, the whole family is affected, and the whole family is basically stuck in this really, really difficult situation. The only other thing I want to mention is that my donation was unusual in that I'm a vegan, so I eat no animal products, and I'm very healthy, but my blood protein levels are lower than somebody who eats a lot of meat and dairy. And so I actually had to get vegan doctors involved just to assure people, the transplant surgeon, that I was very healthy, even though my blood levels are a little atypical. And so as a vegan, I'm committed to nonviolence and to saving life. And so the kidney donation felt like that it was part of that mission that I have. The other thing is, after you donate a kidney, they warn you not, the big risk after you donate a kidney for some people is hypertension. And another big risk is if you take in too much protein, it can tax the remaining kidney. But as a vegan, vegans, for instance, don't take in any cholesterol because that's an animal product. And our blood pressure tends to be low, and our protein intake tends to be healthy, moderate. And so, in some ways, as a vegan, I was an ideal donor.
Do you think there's some kind of connection between you and him because part of you is functioning in him spiritually or on some kind of
Yeah.
ethereal level.
I'm not a spiritual person, but because he and I came together, because he's an animal rescuer, and you know I'm not as committed an animal rescuer, but I'm totally pro animal. I think of my kidney as a dog I gave up for adoption, and that it now has a wonderful home in North Carolina. More and more people are saying, "Yeah, let me donate, you know, a kidney to somebody and save their life." It's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. I recommend it for everyone, and if I had a few extra kidneys, I would donate them all.